Ever found yourself stuck, not in a crisis, but in a slow drift? You know what helps. You just don't do it. This week, I didn't either. Until something pulled me back. And that's what this is about. I woke up with that familiar heaviness. Not the kind that screams, the kind that hums. Quiet, dense. The kind that makes even brushing your teeth feel like a philosophical question. The scroll felt far away. Not rejected, just shelved. Not because I stopped believing in it, but because belief wasn't strong enough this week. There's a version of it that gets dressed up. I was off track, but I found clarity story. This isn't that. This is a version where I stalled for days and came back for no noble reason. Just enough. I knew what I needed. The first step was obvious. Open the scroll doc, reread the practices, move, breathe, begin again. Instead, I hovered. I refreshed tabs I didn't care about. I doom-scrolled, reopened the same articles, made another cup of coffee I didn't need. The truth is, knowing what helps doesn't make it easier. Sometimes, it makes it even harder. That's the tension I sat in all week. The space between knowing and doing. That wasn't a fall. It was a drift, no crash, just the low-grade erosion of a rhythm. It started with a single "not today," then another, then the illusion that I was just letting it breathe, when really I was letting it fade. The funny thing is, the return didn't feel intentional. There was no deep resolve, no "I'm back." I just moved. I stood up, I breathed. I went through a simple form my body remembered, even if my mind resisted. It didn't feel meaningful, but it was movement, and that was enough. That act, small, reluctant, silent, was a practice. Daily reset from Zeneteia. Let go of what you can't control. Do one thing you can. I didn't recite the mantra, but I lived it. I released what I cannot control. I couldn't fix the week. I couldn't reboot clarity, but I could move. And that movement didn't come from inside. It came after something cracked. I sat with a sense that I had wasted a day, then another, and that morning I finally asked the real question: what's one thing today that I cannot control? My answer? That dull weight in my chest. The internal fog, the slow drip doubt. It wasn't caused by anything dramatic, just life being life. No energy spike, no breakthrough, just friction. Then came the second part. How is that making me feel? I didn't write it down, but I named it stagnant, unmotivated, a little ashamed. So I stood still, let the weight speak, and then said, almost aloud that time, I release what I cannot control. And that was the turn. From there, I picked one thing, move for 10 minutes. That was my reset, not a fix, a re-entry. One action, quietly done, can reset a loop. It doesn't erase the doubt, but it reminds you that presence is a skill, not a feeling. I used to think return needed a story. Now I think it just needs gravity. Daily reset isn't a technique, it's a turning back to yourself, back to rhythm, back to doing something before your mind catches up. What surprised me most wasn't the act, it was how familiar it felt. Like walking back into a campsite I forgot I built. The fire wasn't out, it just needed breath. The scroll isn't a program. It's a tray you leave behind for your future self. And sometimes that version of you is tired, lost, grumpy, and still worthy of the next step. It wasn't a comeback, it was a reset. And sometimes that's the most honest kind of return we get. That's why I built the scroll, for moments like this. If you've been drifting too, come back with me. Subscribe, share. The scroll drops soon. Let's return one step at a time.